Please have your seat. I'm sure that feels good. Okay, you're welcome to this session. It's the proverbial saving the best for last.
Yes.
So, as introduced, my name is Kemi Ajayi. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Banwan Ighodalo. I am not a lawyer, but I've been working with lawyers for 18 years, so I can claim a lawyer by association. And moderating this session with me is
Chineye Uwanaka, founder and managing partner of the FEMA Advisory. Can I just say that it's an honor to be here on stage. I remember my first SBL, I was sitting at the back. I was feeling very hopeless about the legal profession. And that conference was a turning point. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
So in this session, we'll be discussing the following aspects of business of law: an analysis of succession and transition opportunities, the need for and how to plan for succession. We will discuss analysis of the opportunities presented in this new era, the new practice areas, new ways of interacting with clients, business development, global offices, and etc. We will discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the way we do business, the exponential technological transformation, the opportunities presented, talent management, and succession. We would also discuss the impact of the Big Four encroachment on traditional law practice, and finally, we would propose solutions on how to remain competitive. Okay, so going on to the first item, most lawyers don't like to think that that time will come when we will stop practicing, because there is that love for law and law for practice. But guess what? A time will come that you cannot do the things that you used to do before, and then what happens to the firm? What happens to what leadership arrangements have you put in place? And that would impact the future, the financial capabilities of the firm, and lots of lives that are already associated in the firm. Okay, so on the Wova app, we have a poll running. So please, as we discuss, log on to Wova and engage with us, because we'll be taking your comments to make this session very efficient. We'll be taking your comments on Wova as well. So moving on to the first question. Okay, talking about succession, Mr. Ighodalo is in this room. Mr. Ighodalo employed me years ago. Joining Banwan Ighodalo, anyone joining Banwan Ighodalo, then you would hear, we want to build a sustainable institution. That's what we hear and breathe and live by every day. Okay, and then that brings to my mind a founder's dilemma. What are you thinking about? You want to build a sustainable institution. It has so many implications. And I'm going to ask Reginald. How has Alukwane Ebode been able to ensure a smooth transitioning from the first level, from the founding partner to you, mindful of the different levels and cadres of partners in the firm?
Thank you very much, Kemi, and thanks to SBO for asking us to speak today. I've been following the politics, the presidential elections. So one of the candidates, he had said something very interesting. So when they asked him how he got such an interesting idea, he said, "I got the idea from a madman." And so if you also know a little bit about Lagos, you know about the Danfo buses, that the yellow little buses that patrol Lagos, call them the Danfo buses. They have all these inscriptions at the back, which are very philosophical. The one I like the most is the one that says, "No one knows tomorrow." And so that's probably the background to founders giving away what they like, what they give birth to people as succession. So in A&O, we have a co-founder who was managing partner for so many years, more than 20 years. In fact, if you know a bit about A&O, there was a precursor firm before A&O. He was also managing partner in that precursor firm. So co-founder, name partner, managing partner, rainmaker. It was as if we're going towards the founder's trap. For the young lawyers in the room, founder's trap. So some of those firms that 20 years ago when we were in law school, we all admired, we all wanted to work in, that are no longer around today. And so we started talking about this about 12, 15 years ago, about how to avoid the founder's trap. And good thing we realized that we're lawyers who went to law school. We are not equipped to discuss or help ourselves with transition issues. So we actually got a consultant to help us in that regard. And so consultant came around. There were several models on the table. We basically went through all of them, trying to find which one will be a good fit for us. I'd just been made partner right around that period. And the co-founder I'm talking about is Mr. Oyebode, Gbenga Oyebode. We call him Gio, but he's now nicknamed, so the Gio is his initials, but we've nicknamed him the general overseer. And so I couldn't imagine A&O without the general overseer. And so I asked, is Gio leaving the firm? And they're like, no, he's not going anywhere, but I mean, we have to plan for the future. It was a bit, I didn't quite understand it. Anyway, we went through the different models. And this is actually where it gets interesting, because when you have this guy who's run the firm for 25 years, has all the institutional history, do you want him to just up and go one day? And so we had to discuss some of those things. So the first one was institutional history, that even if we have a succession plan in place, we also have to make it to be like a transition. It can't just be a sudden snap. The second one is that, yes, this guy wants to build something that would outlive him. Founders want to leave a legacy, but they also want a golden shake when they're leaving. And so we also had discussions relating to evaluating the founder's interests. Again, if you know a bit about most firms in Nigeria, especially in Lagos, some big partnerships went downhill when a partner left and they couldn't agree on how to share the proceeds, and we didn't want that to be the case. And after the discussions, we basically chose a hybrid model. So a model that says that, look, even if it's going to transition from managing partner, we don't want to lose all the institutional history. And so we now came about what we call the management board. So just like a company that has a board and the CEO, MD, the management board is such that the MP, the managing partner, is like the MD or a CEO of a company, deals with the day-to-day operations, while the board deals with the long-term visionary strategic issues, just like the way of the board of a company would deal with it. And so Gio now transitioned from managing partner to chair of the board, while Mrs. Doseku, my first boss in A&O, now went to become the managing partner. And then they now constituted the board, a mix of different partners. So it was more or less mostly the senior partners who were to the board, but they asked me to join the board. To be honest, it was a distraction. I wanted to be left alone to do my oil and gas financing. I didn't know what I was doing there. They sent me off to Yale to go and do a leadership course. I should have known actually when that was happening, but I wasn't paying attention. Then when it ran well for like 4 or 5 years, so everybody now told us that, look, guys, and that's how he speaks, guys, it's been real. I've had a good time doing this thing, but I'm 60 now. I don't want to spend all my life practicing law. I want to try other things. And so that he was going to step down from being the chair of the management board. We thought that meant he would step down and still be a partner. And he said, no, he wanted to like move away. But we finally reached an arrangement which allowed him to become an off-counsel, and I'll talk about that. And then Mrs. Doseku now became chair. And then they now surprised me by asking me to become the managing partner. And they said, don't worry, it's not difficult. We'll be there for you and everything. I should have known better. Anyway, then I became the managing partner. I talked about the off-counsel relationship, and please let me know if I'm going beyond the time. If you're a fan of the Godfather movie like I am, remember that scene where Michael was planning how to hit the big 5 families, and the Don had stepped down from being the Don, and the Don was advising Michael on what to do and all that. That's how I see the off-counsel relationship. So it's more like an advisory position. Because like I said, Mr. Oyebode has all this historical knowledge. Mrs. Doseku has run different 5 years. Why do you want to just make the mistakes that you could avoid, because most of the things I encounter on a day-to-day, they've gone through it. And so from time to time, I go to them and ask them questions and all that. Most times when they tell me things, I tell them that it won't work. It worked with us because the Gen X, we are very docile. The Gen Z and millennials are not going to take any of that. And then they laugh at me and say, so why did you come to us in the first place? Do it your way. And most times when that happened, I got burnt. And so what's grateful to have the opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them. But the truth is, it's not a factory where you're making products, it's human beings. So there can't be so many mistakes. So I'm happy that we have that board, and that's the way we've done that transition. So the board is there to guide and direct, and then I run the firm. So that's how we transition. And just to let you know, sorry, one last word. Sorry, just to let you know, so like I explained, I didn't transition from the founder to me. Actually, had happened 5 years ago, from the founder to Mrs. Doseko, and then to myself. And just the final word, which is a cultural issue. So everybody is professional, they're very supportive and all, but this is still Nigeria, cultural. I first came to A&O as an intern from the University of Lagos. Some of the partners in the firm now were partners when I came as an intern. And so even though they tell me that, look, anything I want them to do, they will do, and they actually do it. It used to be a bit difficult asking them that, can you do this, or can you help out with this? So, but being supportive and being there has made it all the most smooth for me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that detailed and honest answer. I know a lot of us, look up to the Aluko and Oyibo days, and really this panel is power-packed. But we're going to switch over to a female on the panel, and she's the managing partner of Detail Solicitors. In the legal profession, you don't see a lot of women attain top leadership position, even though it's getting better. So my question is, why you? What was the trajectory, and how did you, get to this position? What are the challenges?
Hello. Okay. Thanks, Chineye, and it's really great to be here. Litigation. So we were aligned on that, and he had come from full service, full circle, and said he didn't want to do litigation, but there was a generation gap between us, and he was so open about what his vision was, transparent about what he wanted to build, and this young lawyer was doing everything with him. And he was sharing his dreams with me, and I would run with it, and I remember then, my friends who were in more established firms, really used to wonder if there was any future for me there. The fact that you are with this one man and doing everything, it was tough, but it was very interesting, because rather than coming at some point into leadership, I started from day one. I was doing the business of law, plus advising clients, everything with him. So mine was one in which I learned from the start. And why me? the question asked, why me? You know, Reginald mentioned something about institutional knowledge. It was a very unique experience because, and one that you don't find, and it's kind of is our model, because our model is organic growth. So I was the first experiment, if you put it that way. But why me? It enabled me be able to have that institutional knowledge, the longevity that's required for someone who's taking over, because I've been part of every milestone that Detail has been part of, even though I was not a partner. You know, so it's a different experience, but one in which, you know, I kind of grew as the firm was growing. I was also growing. So that's the answer to your question. And to why me, I guess I ticked those boxes.
A quick follow-up. A quick follow-up.
Yes.
Why did you believe in his vision?
It's hard to say. But that was just a joke. And it's a very long story. But I think that one of the things for me about joining Detail was the fact that I was actually excited about being part of building something. So that was motivation for me. But it was exciting working with AJ because you actually saw him talk about a vision that we saw come to life. You know, he would actually say, I mean, there was a vision written down, and little by little, you know, we wrote the vision and we saw it come to life, and that was very interesting. I cannot tell you that it was all fanfare. And as I said, sometimes there are times when it seemed like, okay, is this really going to come to light? You know, am I just wasting my time here? Should I go and join the other firms? But it's been a really interesting experience.
Thank you very much. You know, as experiences are shared, there are silent points in all of those things that's been said. So the hope is that you go back to your firms and look at those things that's been said. What's the leadership style? What's your culture style? What is the purpose of the firm? Quickly, I'll come to Wale. Let's talk about the dynamics of succession in a family-based practice. You know, there is multi-generation in a family-based practice. How do you ensure alignment? How do you ensure acceptance, mindful of the different generations, and how do you plan succession into the various generations of family and the family line? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kemi. So for us as a business, we're very clear in our minds that it's possible that Anola Nipekun will not always be in leadership of our business. Yes, the firm was founded by someone that the firm is branded after. That's Chief Waliola Nipekun. Coincidentally, I'm in leadership today, but certainly some other person that is not Anola Nipekun would be in leadership tomorrow. So what we had done as a business was, in the same way as Alukwano Yebode did, at some point we realized what our vision was, and it was clear. We also understood the size of the vision. So we got one of the big four, KPMG in particular, to sort of come and look at our business model, try to align it with our vision, and build a to-be operating model for us. We definitely are not there yet, but we have a model that we're working towards. So for everybody that comes in, we make them internalize what our values are, so that there is a clear emotional connection with the firm. And once the values are internalized and they're strong, you know, we believe that will help us in building an institution that will survive even when the challenges will come, because definitely the challenges will come, and we've had our own fair share of that. But we try to build the firm on very strong values, because we believe that's what is sustainable, and we're confident that will drive us into the next generation, because we believe we've successfully transited from one generation to another, and we're open that the values that have kept us till now would take us to subsequent generations. Thank you.
Awesome, Wale. I have a quick follow-up, and we're just being candid here. So did you ever feel pressure to step into your dad's big shoes? Was it forced on you? Like, if you decided you wanted to be a musician or something, like, did you have a choice?
Okay, so to be honest, I was always clear in my mind that I wanted to be a lawyer. So when I was, after I'd finished from Olashere International School and I was going to go to university, and I was having a discussion with my father about career, and I was filling my JAMB form. Straight away, I'd filled law as my first choice, and I'd also filled law as my second choice. So it was clear to me that I was going to be a lawyer, and it wasn't pressure. Coincidentally, I have 3 other siblings. All 4 of us are lawyers. My elder brother is a senior advocate of Nigeria as well. But there really was no pressure, to be honest. I think it was coincidental, and we just took it from there. Thanks.
Okay, coming to you, Chike. We keep talking about succession being a part of our culture. Looking at the founding partners, the firms represented here, at some point they will be considering, if you are not already considering retirement, okay? Retirement has to be a part of succession plan for various reasons. There is, you can't fill up the top. The younger lawyers are looking at the top and looking at what's happening. Should I continue to stay in practice? Is it worth it? And then the retiring partners, are we able to, and we're having a candid conversation, right? Are we able to structure retirement to positively impact succession?
Thank you very much for that, Kemi. I think I'll start with 2 disclaimers. One is, I'm not a managing partner. I'm just a conference organizer. And the reason I'm here is that one of the panelists, who's an actual managing partner, couldn't make it. So I stepped in, because even though I'm not one, I've been very close to that role for a while. So speaking about retirement plans, in many respects, I am one of the retirement plans of the founder of the firm where I work. And it's an interesting situation, because my founding partner is only a little less than 7 years older than me. So I'm not quite sure how that retirement plan will work. But speaking seriously, I think died in August. He was an accountant, not a lawyer. But I saw my father work as a very senior civil servant and retire and struggle with retirement. Here was a man who, every day went to work, went around auditing government departments, etc., etc. But suddenly he retires, and he wasn't really prepared for retirement. He tried his hands in some minor business, it didn't work. So it was difficult, but ultimately he found something within the church. He had a second career. He became an auditor for the church on a voluntary basis, going around auditing things, schools, looking after schools for the church and all of that. So one of the key things regarding retirement will be that law is a business. If you look at the accountants, they don't have the challenge that we have. They've dealt with these things a long time ago. An interesting contrast for me is there's a gentleman called Akintola Williams, born in 1919. He had a younger brother born a year and 6 months after, Rotimi Williams, lawyer, accountant. Akintola Williams founded a firm in Nigeria in 1952 on return to Nigeria from England after studying accounting. He retired from that role in 1983. He's still alive. He's 102 years today. He retired at age 63. His brother, Rotimi Williams, was proud to say he was going to die in court. So there's a contrast in how lawyers think about, our vocation. So one of the things that we need to learn is that first and foremost, we're a business like other people. And therefore, if we're looking to build institutions or even live as human beings, because we go this way, we peak at some point, and it's time to take it easy, right? So there's a lot of planning that goes with retirement. You begin to prepare people in terms of how do they manage wealth? How do you put money aside? How do you invest? What possible second careers, what possible volunteerism, etc., is available that you encourage your partners? They join the Chamber of Commerce, they join boards, they do several things that prepare them for that role after the service of law or the practice of law. Now, if I come down more granular, right? If I'm a founder, what are my interests in the business that I founded? Recently, someone invited me to say, I need you to advise me on how to, and this was a doctor whose father was a lawyer, but he wants to build his late father's law firm into an institution, which his wife runs. His important interest is that the name of that firm should never change. Now, so there's legacy, there's a pride in the name, there's control, there's voice, there's dividend, etc., etc. These are the things that founders want in their business. Now, what do the people coming behind want? I have a number of younger partners, and one of them tells me that every day the husband will say, that your law firm, Ogogo, who's my founding partner, he's still young, he's not 60 yet. Chike is not old, Forget my gray hair, I'm not that old. So what exactly are you doing there? Where is the space for you, right? So you need a predictable path for the founders, for the partners coming after them, to understand that, I've seen a few firms do, at the age of 60 or 65, it is time for people to retire. So that predictability of when to go would enable the people coming behind believe in the future, believe they have a stake in the business and work towards succeeding. Now, so whatever it is that you do, I don't have a prescription, but whatever you do, you need to create a plan that looks after the founder's interest in the legacy, looks after the founder's interest in a voice. So for a founder to have a voice, perhaps it's you create an advisory board where, although the founder and other older partners have retired, they are able to come occasionally and contribute to the vision of the firm, even though the people behind them may not necessarily be bound to take all of their advice. Those people who are looking for money can either get a gratuity and pension, or they can get paid out. There are different models. So you pay the person out. I've seen a model where we agree a payout, so you value the founder, but quite apart from the founder, you're looking at the business, the firm as a business. So yes, this is the value of your stake in the firm as you're going away. But we're a business and we cannot sustainably pay out all of that at once. So you agree a phased payout program. Some of them, you can say, over the next X amount of years, this capital sum will be paid to you. Beyond that, you either get a pension or you don't get it. It depends. So there's dividend, there's legacy, there's relevance. Give them a big title. I mean, we've seen, if you look at a place like Stanbic Bank, founded by someone we know, IBTC Bank, sorry. When Stanbic came, they gave him a beautiful role, chairman. There was a transition period. Today, he's no longer in the board of that business in Nigeria. He's somewhere in South Africa. So there are different ways that you do this, but you look after the founder, the interests of the founder and their concerns. You look after the business, the sustainability of the business. That's the reason why, if you can't pay out immediately, have a program. And then obviously I've spoken about the people coming behind. They have to have faith that, I mean, Chike and Owo are not going to stay there forever. There's a ladder that they can climb on. So, I mean, those are the sorts of things that I think that you will think about when you're thinking about retirement. There's a lot more, but we don't have the time to talk about it.
Awesome submission. So this question is just a follow-up, for you or any other person who wants to answer. And personally, I'm a founder, and I'm thinking about retiring early, to be honest. I want to retire at 40, which is very soon. But yeah, so how do you train a successor, especially in line with business development, rainmaking, like we call it? Lots of founders are the ones who bring in the briefs, bring in the revenues. And sometimes when they bring in or hire team members, they might be strong in other areas, but not necessarily business development. A lot of founders cannot take the back seat because they're worried that there won't be revenues coming in to sustain, or they may not be. So how would you respond to that?
Okay, that's a good question. And I think there's no easy answer, right? These things are skills that can be taught. They're also skills that are often learned by doing, by observing, or by having certain innate interests and abilities, right? So firms should be intentional about trying to teach these things, right? You teach by mentoring, you teach by actually going through some formal courses. I mean, there are formal courses available to train people on the soft skills of selling, of speaking, of rainmaking, etc., etc. There are things that you can do, and it's a genuine, legitimate fear of many founders, and that's part of why you see controlling founders that when I leave this place, again, it's going back to remind ourselves that law is a business. Many of us, and we have these conversations in our respective firms, there are those lawyers who believe that my role here is just sit here, write legal opinions, go to court, write briefs, etc., and forget that there's that part of keeping the bulbs on, the part of bringing in the work. So you have to have a culture of making your people realize that in addition to doing the work, or even first and foremost, is the fact that that work comes from somewhere. So it's either you have those people who are specialists at bringing in work while someone else is doing the work, but the right balance is actually where you have people who are ambidextrous to some degree and are able to do both. So it can be taught, but there's also people who are just naturally inclined to doing those things, and you look out for those people.
So I just wanted to add, just to perhaps just encourage us with stories about my experience. So mine was very deliberate, and at detail you learn to do, so just as Chike was saying, at detail you learn to do everything from the start. You are told, and you learn that law is a business. And there's a lot that goes into bringing business. And for me, it was quite deliberate. There was the part about becoming the great lawyer. And there was the time when AJ called me and said, "You are a great lawyer now, but then I'm going to stretch you in terms of entrepreneurship." It was very deliberate, and I look back many years and I can tell the different milestones when there were certain things that he would say, "Go and enter there. If you sink there, don't worry, I will bring a paddle to carry you." So it has to be deliberate. And just to say that, I think as firms, we have to be really deliberate about teaching from the very beginning. And it still comes down to who are you hiring. But beyond that, I even think that in our educational curriculum as well, in law school, lawyers need to learn about law as a business. You know, what that thing we do, what is it, practice, there's one course that we do in law school. Professional, no, it's not even professional ethics, there's something about law office. Totally useless. Totally useless. It tells you nothing. You know, I think that we need to be learning about entrepreneurship in our Nigerian universities in school, so that people understand that even though you're a brilliant lawyer, you know, you can't, that doesn't ever make you. AJ always says that there are brilliant lawyers in this country who are very poor, and that's because they just don't understand the fact that law is a business, and they're just so excited about doing the work. But at the end of the day, there is no bacon, you know, to bring home. So I think that we need to be very deliberate from the start, and I think it's a leadership challenge. And what I mean is the fact that for some of the law firms, we don't even some leaders have that challenge in the first place, you know, and teaching. So we need to really, really restructure and reorientate ourselves.
So we're really on the clock, and we're rushing things. This wasn't the way we planned it, but we want everyone to enjoy the party. So we've been talking about law as a business. There's been lots of business combinations. We've been seeing lots of alliances. Recently it was Alukwane Body, ALN. You know, there is Olaniwo, the internationalization. You know, and the question to my mind is, are law firms really benefiting from the globalization of our practices? And I think I'll throw that question to Reginald.
Did you deliberately leave out a particular law firm, Kemi? So I think it depends on what people want. Are they benefiting? I think the answer is yes and no. People have to know what they want. They have to be intentional about what they want. Most people are going into these alliances or consolidation to grow their cross-border work, and people are going about it with different models in mind. Growing organically like the big firms in Nigeria have grown, that has its limitations. There's a reason why some of these foreign law firms have 1,000 partners and they still run seamlessly. So it's not just about the work, it's also about the processes. And like you alluded to, there are different models available. There's the domestic merger, which maybe there are one or two successful ones, hasn't quite happened. We're discussing about it in the green room, and somebody said that some of the founding partners have very strong personalities, might not happen. The international one can't happen because of our rules that you can't be in a partnership with somebody who's not called to the Nigerian bar. There's the tie-up with the ILFs, which would help you because they would give you all their work in your jurisdiction. They would help you build your processes. But if you use a dating analogy, so do you want to be that good girl who has only one boyfriend, in which case all other men are off the table, or do you want to be the beautiful bride who's open to all suitors? So if you do a tie-up with one firm, one ILF, the other ILFs will go elsewhere, go look at other brides, which is why some people prefer the alliance model, which basically means that you hunt in packs, but it's a non-exclusive relationship. You're all independent firms, but when you go hunting, you hunt in packs and you complement yourself, which is the model we've taken. So it means that you don't fight with anybody because you're not seen as tying up with somebody, but you also benefit from the cross-border alliances. And I think that the point to make is to know what you want. So you want to grow your cross-referral network, to build your processes, but you also have to be mindful of the fact that you don't want them to eat your lunch. Increasingly, law firms sit in London, staffed in London, but they have Nigerians basically targeting Nigerian work. So even saying that you don't want them to come here will not stop them from taking the work. I don't think that law firms in the UK are afraid of the Americans coming to set up in England. South Africans have welcomed the ILFs into South Africa, but Wenzel is still standing. In Nairobi, you have Dentons and the rest of them there. Anjawala is still standing. So I think we just need to build ourselves, and then we'll take the benefit of the globalization. I know we don't have time, so I'm being very quick. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to, following up on, thank you. So there is the stiff competition that we face, we've touched on it. And then there is a competition that there is a raising to the bottom that we're doing amongst ourselves, okay? And I would ask, I would reckon that a Wale can sometimes name your price based on litigation practice. What advice would you give to your colleagues on the race to the bottom and the impact on our ability to compete at the platforms at which we want to compete? Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, it's basic. Be truthful about your reality. Be objective about who you are, and keep to who you are, irrespective of the external factors or what other people are doing. So if you know who you are and you retain what you are as a business, your values, your culture, your vision, you keep to it. To be honest, I think that even in the face of undercutting, those other challenges, competition with pricing and all of those, you would eventually remain strong and stand as a business brand that will grow to be an institution. That's what has worked for us, and I think I can effectively recommend stay true to what you are as a business.
All right, awesome. So this next question, we all know that the big fours, the consulting firms, seem to be encroaching on the legal space. A lot of services that they provide, some of them are actually acquiring law firms. And this can be seen as a threat to sustainability. So I'm just going to throw this open to anyone who wants to answer on the panel. What are you doing as a firm to ensure that you are remaining relevant and you're able to compete?
So I think if there was some magic wand by which you could stop competition from the big four accounting firms, right? I would love to have that magic wand, but it doesn't exist, right? And at the end of the day, protectionism may appear to work for a time, but it's an illusion. Legal services providers who are lawyers should think of something that is smart and market driven. Because at the end of the day, these are services, and people who have the money to purchase services will go where they think they're getting value. And no matter what the Bar Association has done in this country, and they've been doing it for a long time, the accounting firms have been practicing law in Nigeria for as long as there's been time. I mean, back to being a young lawyer, I've got legal opinions provided. You have a legal opinion side by side with opinion of counsel on issues of law provided by these people. So we have to be real and look at this as competition and compete effectively. So Tulip, these guys have skill. As I said, Akintola Williams founded a firm in 1952, retired in 1983 at the age of 63. That firm he founded at some point, as far back as 1992, had 535 staff. I forget how many partners. I remember when we celebrated the largest partner-led law firm in Nigeria, which was the Law Union, 10 partners, round about 2000 and so whatever. So we need to get serious tool up, build skill, and compete.
Can we also encroach on them as well, their services?
I mean, I think our ethical barriers, sort of hold us back. But there's no reason why we couldn't reimagine the practice of law. As a matter of fact,
Absolutely.
the international law firms today are doing the reverse
Yes.
of going into consulting, which is the other way that the accounting firms travel. And it's really about freeing ourselves up from some of the handcuffs that our rules of professional conduct, have tied us up with.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Our time is up, but we can't end this session without talking about the most critical people in our businesses, and that's talent. One of the polls we have running on Woover ask a question that, are you considering leaving the practice of law in Nigeria? Because we all experience the exodus, the
Brain drain.
Yeah. It's almost haunting of our talents. What are we, mindful of the circumstances of Nigeria, what are we saying to our associates to make them stay? What can we say to them, to make them stay? Okay, that question is hanging.
Anyone can take the question, actually.
I'm looking for Chike's magic wand. No, I think that the constraints that we face today with law firms, we have many things hitting at us. The law business itself and the way it's structured, largely for a lot of our younger people, they don't want to do law for as long as we've done it. They're very mobile. They want to do many other things. Then we have a double whammy of a country that our young people constantly feel unsafe in. And when someone comes to your office and tells you that I have to leave because of my children, what do you say? What do you really say to them when they tell you, with the way things are going, I'm not sure what kind of future my children may have. I remember being in an interview and the asked me this question. He said, why are you still here? Basically he was saying, what's still keeping you here? What's the reason why you are still in business, given the country? This was about, I think, a year ago, 2 years ago. Very young man, He just, when we had interviewed him and we asked him, questions, and he then said he had a question, and that was the question he asked. And my answer to him was, it's because of people like you. So just to answer the question, there's nothing that you can say, but you can only just continue to train and mentor and just create the best environment for these people and hope that out of maybe 10 each time you employ, you have one left after like 2-3 years. We've become, our lawyers and they've become highly prized professionals, prized in the sense that they are all on LinkedIn. They are global citizens. Everybody's looking at them. You are not keeping them to yourself, and you can't keep them from going on LinkedIn and other places. So you just don't have to trust that someone will, buy into your vision and stay. And that's why a lot of the things we've been talking about, succession and people having that sense of ownership in the business, is important.
Let me just add a voice to this. I think, again, there are models to learn from. There are a few things I know. I won't say them here. Otherwise, so I won't. But if we look at the accountants again, right? The firms like Anderson, right? They start They hire people in classes. Each class is oversized. So you hire with redundancy in mind. They've done a study and they know that every summer, these many of our new analysts will go away to do postgrad. When they get to year 2, these many are going to fail their ICANN exams, and they will have this length of time to try and fail. So you model these things and you know that people are going to leave, and you structure your business in that. To do this work, and I've hired with redundancy. As people fall away, there will be remainders to do the work. There are rules, there are things around flexibility that we can try that will work for the new generation, and so many other things. But I think if we always look at what we do as a business, then there's got to be a business solution to it. Another thing to note is it's a great time for talent coming out of Nigeria and some of the frontier nations, because it's cheap to buy this talent that are as good and they speak English, etc. So today, a lawyer will leave a firm in Nigeria and show up in the city of London and start work without having to requalify, etc., right? So, I used to say this to people who talk about brain drain, right? Oh, Nigerian doctors, they're fleeing. And I said, so why don't we start an industry of training more doctors than we need in Nigeria and start exporting them? There's no reason why we can't become the marketplace for talent. India does it, so why couldn't we? So look at it as a business challenge and think innovatively about how do we gather more people than we need so that as people leave, we can sustain our businesses.
Awesome. Do we have permission to take questions from the audience, maybe for 5 minutes? Questions from the audience, or should we end? 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. So if you can just indicate if you have a question. And any questions? Going? Okay, one hand there. Okay, anyone else? All right, can someone get the mic to, can you raise up your hand again so we can see you? Okay, there's 2 people. Okay, we can start with her and then the other person. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. A lot has been said about founders and associates and moving on, but nothing has been said particularly about what COVID has brought and how the new business is supposed to look like. We're lawyers and some of us don't even go to court at all. So are law firms considering remote working for associates to sort of encourage them or to reduce the said brain drain?
Okay, who is the question for? Or does anyone, maybe?
Anybody really?
Anyone can take it, okay.
I think I spoke about flexibility, right? And that's really what that is about. I'm sure that firms in this room, firms on this, what is it called? This stage, have different flexibility options available. So, there are people who do 4-day weeks. There are all sorts of, options that are available now that people practice that I'm sure is helping us keep people in a world after COVID where we've proven that remote working is not as much anathema as we thought it to be pre-COVID. So I think the answer is yes, that's a way of looking at it. And then about going to court, that's a slightly different conversation about, the varieties of modes of legal practice and areas of practice that are available. And that is what SBL is about, creating awareness about the variety of opportunities that are available to lawyers in the market to take advantage of.
Thank you so much. All right, there's a guy there. Please raise up your hand again. Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Prince Adebi Adetosoye. So my question is some kind of follow-up from the drain that we're talking about. Now, most of the big law firms in Nigeria are guilty of what I'm about to talk about. So you find a situation where some of the smaller firms who their earning capacity is not so much, they've maybe they have lawyers that they pay between 50 and 100,000, and they've trained these guys for like 1 or 2 years, and then you find out that these big law
Can you speak up a bit so that the panelists can hear you?
Okay, so let me take it again. My question.
Go ahead, please. Your question.
Okay, so I'm just trying to interrogate the brain drain that we're talking about, and it's not just about our people, our finest traveling out. We also find a situation where you find smaller firms that maybe their paying capacity is between 50 and 100,000. They employ young lawyers, train them for like 2-3 years, and the big, they poach them and take them away. So you find most of these law firms, they have turned to like a learning ground. You just come, stay there for 2 years, learn as much as you can, and then when they can now do trial, they can do negotiation, they can draft pleadings, and then they come and just arrest them. It's unfair.
All right, thank you. Last question.
They are not
That guy there. Last
encouraging the
question.
firms to grow.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll take the last question.
Hi, Vincent Iweze. My question is to Reginald and Dolapo. Now, at this conference, we spent time, talking about other sectors and their laws and their rules. And I'm wondering what kind of advice you can give to the SBL, or begin to focus on our curriculum as lawyers and the training of lawyers, because I believe that the succession plan starts from the university. You're getting lawyers that you can't employ anymore, or when you employ them, you can't pay as much because you don't think they have any value. So I'm wondering, for example, we still have, I think, some law that says maybe you can't advertise this much. And we have mindsets of people being taught that, quote unquote, you should die in court. Or people saying, well, I really don't go to court. What can the SBL do to begin to attack those very core issues that affect us as lawyers? Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. So, who is taking the first one? Maybe someone from this side? No, the Dolapo will take the second one. But maybe, Bode, you can take that one, first one.
Okay, I think the key is to make work meaningful. If you're paying a lawyer somewhere between 50,000 to 100,000, I don't know what part of Nigeria that will happen, but if for instance,
It happens in Abuja.
But the truth is, if that lawyer appreciates the vision of the firm and sees a future with the firm, that at some point, that firm, and the vision is honest, that at some point, that firm will probably grow to be able to pay more multiple digits. There's a possibility that work might be more meaningful to that lawyer and will believe in an honest vision, because the truth of the matter is there is more to keeping members of your firm than pay. Pay, of course, is a critical part of making work meaningful, but it's not the only part of it. So if you might be able to keep a lawyer if he believes in the vision and the business is honest about remuneration, income and remuneration. Thank you.
I think just to add to that very quickly is that, just like Chike said, I mean, there's a reason why it's called career progression. It's not a contract of slavery. People would come and go, but the business has to go on. Even the big firms you're complaining about also lose people. But if you look at it from the mindset that sometimes when, in quotes, you lose people, you're not really losing. I mean, some of the biggest briefs we get from people that left the firm to go and work elsewhere. So it's a win-win. I mean, they move on, you just hire more people and you continue. It's career progression. You can't just tie them down forever. It's not slavery.
Okay, Dolapo, the last question.
I'll also give the gentleman advice that as soon as you can, review your payment. Just review it. And you are not alone. We on this side of the table constantly suffer that heartache, but we've learned to live with it, you know. But review your pay so you can get better people, and that's just the honest truth. So the other question as to what the SBL can do, I think I've mentioned the fact that we need to be looking at our educational institutions, and I know the MBA is doing quite a bit on training lawyer. At least this current, what I call it, administration, has been very, very keen on improving, you know, our knowledge and our capacities. But then there needs to be another different program, I think, for universities and the law school. And while we're at it, is looking at the curriculum all over again. And I think that this has been said at many conferences. I'm not quite sure. I know that MBA also has clubs with universities, but I think a more concerted effort with our law school and looking at our curriculum and all of that is very important. The other thing that we need to also learn is that there's also the law firm of the future. There's also how we sell law, and it's not going to be the way we are doing it today. A lot of us here don't even know how it's going to be. And there are many things that we need to put in our curriculum. Technology, for example. We will find that we are going to have lawyers who also know how to write code. We talk about smart contracts now. You know, how will you do those? There's need for lawyer input in those smart contracts. That's the truth. So we need to really we are still very far back, really, really far back. I mean, we are still talking about, you know, people knowing how to run business, you know, and there is the law firm of the future where we need to equip our lawyers to also be able to adapt. So there's a lot of work to do, and yes, I can't give you specific step of what, because I don't have it's not my pay grade to say how the SBL would do, but a suggestion that we really, really need to think about.
All right. Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists. I've learned so much. Thank you to the audience as well for interacting with us. I believe that there's a lot of hope for the future, even in the legal profession. Lots of young people want to japa, but still there are opportunities in Nigeria. And even with technology, some of those things that we see as challenges are actually opportunities. We can export our services. We can be here, leverage technology, and service companies all around the world. In line with Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, we can build bigger law firms and have a presence across Africa and across the globe. So don't give up. You know, if you're out there, you're contemplating leaving the profession, I think you shouldn't give up. Those are my closing remarks. Over to you, my co-moderator.
Thank you very much. Thank you, panelists, for being very open and honest. It takes a lot of courage to tell us the way it is. And just 1 minute, and we would be up to take pictures. There's a question. What would you say to a struggling managing partner? You know, we talked about this, and you all giggled that I'm struggling as well. So please, just one word of encouragement to a struggling managing partner, regardless of the size of your firm. Thank you.
Dolapo, we'll start from you, just one word, and then.
1 minute.
Don't give up.
Okay, Chike.
What's your retirement plan?
I'm also struggling. So keep struggling.
One day at a time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.